The room glittered like a jewelry box. Gold lights, crystal glasses, quiet laughter that sounded sharp like knives tapping porcelain. And on the stage, under a spotlight so bright it hurt, sat the cello. Lila's cello. The one with the warm honey-colored wood. The one that still held the faint smell of pine and polish. The one that had carried my daughter's trembling first notes, her proud first song, her first real dream. A man in a black suit held it like it was nothing more than a trophy. His white gloves looked too clean against the worn curve where Lila's chin had rested 1,000 times. Lot 37, the auctioneer called, voice smooth as oil. A rare instrument with documented provenance. We will begin at 40,000. My lungs forgot how to work. Pushed through the crowd. Stop. That's stolen. A dozen faces turned, annoyed, confused, curious. A few smiles faded. Someone gasped like I had spilled red wine on their shoes. Security stepped in front of me, wide shoulders, cold eyes. "Ma'am, you need to calm down." On the front row, my mother sat with perfect posture and pearl earrings. She lifted her glass like she was watching a show. Like my panic was entertainment. And then she smiled. Not a warm smile. Not a sorry smile. A winning smile. I saw it in her eyes. The same look she'd worn when I was a kid and she'd borrowed my birthday money, then told me I must have lost it. The same look she'd worn when she'd promised she'd changed. Behind her, a man in a gray suit leaned close, whispering into her ear. She didn't flinch. She didn't even look surprised. But his hand did something that made my blood run colder than ice. He slipped a small black recorder from his pocket and pressed a button. The tiny red light blinked. And I realized, in the middle of that elegant room, while my daughter's dream sat on a stage like a prize, that my mother didn't know what was coming. She thought she had won. She had no idea the man behind her was holding a secret that would burn her whole life to the ground. Because the truth about that cello was bigger than money. And the truth about my mother was bigger than theft. The auctioneer's gavel lifted. My daughter's hand tightened around mine, shaking so hard her bracelets clicked like broken bells. "Mom," Lila whispered, voice cracking. "Please don't let them take it." I stared at the stage, at the cello, at the smooth faces in the crowd, and at my mother's calm, proud smile. And I made a promise in my head that felt like a stone dropping into deep water. No matter what I had to do, I was going to get it back. And my mother was going to pay for what she did. Not just with money. With the one thing she loved more than anything else in the world. Control. You need to understand how we got here. Because this didn't start in a ballroom. It started in a small apartment that always smelled like laundry soap and cheap coffee. It started with a girl who practiced until her fingertips ached. And it started with a mother who couldn't stand to see someone else shine. Lila was 12 when the cello became her whole world. Before that, she was the kind of kid who tried a little of everything. Drawing, ochre, baking. She'd start something with bright eyes and then slowly drift away, like her heart was always searching for the thing that fit. Then one day, her school had a music program visit. The teacher brought instruments into the auditorium. Kids laughed and whispered and kicked their shoes against the seats. Then the teacher played. Not on a trumpet, not on a violin, on a cello. The sound didn't just fill the room. It wrapped around it. It felt like a voice you didn't know you'd been waiting to hear. Lila came home with her backpack half open. Hair messy, face glowing. "Mom," she said, barely breathing. "I found it." I looked up from the sink. "Found what, baby?" "My thing," she said, and her hands moved like she was holding something invisible. "It's called a cello." And when he played it, it felt like the music was talking. I laughed softly. "That's sweet." "No," she said, serious now. "Not sweet. Real. I need to learn it. I have to." We were not rich. We were the kind of family that checked the price of eggs before we put them in the cart. The kind of family that saved glass jars because you never knew when you'd need them. The kind that used old t-shirts as cleaning rags and called it being smart. Lila's dad, my husband, had been gone for 2 years. Not by choice. Not by divorce. By a sudden heart problem that didn't care about our plans. After that, life became a string of bills and quiet nights and me trying to smile when my heart felt like cracked glass. So when Lila asked for a cello, my first thought wasn't how wonderful. It was how. But then I saw her eyes. I saw that look. The one that says this isn't a phase. So I did what I always did. I worked. I picked up extra shifts at the clinic. I cleaned a neighbor's house on weekends. I skipped buying new shoes. I learned how to stretch soup so it lasted 2 days. I sold an old bracelet that had been a gift, even though it hurt. And one night, after months of saving, I took Lila to a small music shop on the edge of town. The shop smelled like wood and dust. It had instruments hanging like sleeping birds. A man with kind eyes asked, "Looking for anything special?" "My daughter wants to learn cello," I said. Lila stood very still, like she didn't want to scare the instruments. The man nodded and disappeared into the back. He came out holding a cello case that looked old but cared for. "It's not new," he said, "but it's a good one. Whoever owned it loved it." He opened the case. The cello was beautiful. Not flashy. Not shiny like a toy. It had a soft glow like it carried stories inside it. Lila reached out with one finger, like she was touching something sacred. "How much?" I asked, afraid of the answer. The man hesitated. Normally, I'd list it higher. But it came to me from someone who wanted it to go to a student. Someone who would play it, not lock it away. He named a number that still made my stomach clench, but it was possible. Barely. Paid. In the car, Lila hugged the case like it was a living thing. "I'll take care of it," she whispered. "I swear." And she did. Every day after school she practiced. First the sounds were rough. Squeaks, scrapes, notes that sounded like a door complaining. But she never quit. She'd sit on the old living room chair with her back straight, bow moving slowly, eyes focused like she was building something piece by piece. Some nights I'd stand in the hallway and listen. And I'd cry. 'Cause the music sounded like hope. Then about 6 months in, Lila's teacher called me. "Your daughter has something," she said, voice careful, like she didn't want to scare the truth away. "Not just talent. Heart. She feels the music. There's a youth conservatory program opening auditions. It's competitive, but I think she should try." Lila heard me on the phone and froze, bow in midair. "Audition," she mouthed. I covered the phone and nodded. Her eyes filled so fast it shocked me. After I hung up, she ran to me and hugged my waist so tight I could barely breathe. "Mom," she whispered into my shirt, "this could change everything." And it could. The conservatory program came with scholarships, mentors, opportunities, a path that didn't depend on how many extra shifts I could work. For the first time since my husband died, the future didn't look like a wall. It looked like a door. That's when my mother came back into our lives. Her name was Evelyn. If you met her in public, you'd think she was charming, Polish, the kind of woman who knew the right words and the right smile. She was also the kind of woman who could make you feel small with one sentence. I hadn't spoken to her much after my husband died. Not because she didn't know. She knew. But grief made me too tired to fight her. And she always came with a fight hidden inside her gifts. Then she showed up one afternoon with a suitcase and a bright laugh. "Look at you," she said, stepping into my apartment like she owned the air. "Still living in these tiny boxes." "Mom," I said, surprised. "What are you doing here?" She waved her hand like the question was silly. "I'm here to help. You're a single mother. You're working too hard. And I'm your mother. I should be here." Lila came out of her room, curious. Evelyn's smile became sweet as syrup. "And this must be my granddaughter. My goodness. You've gotten so big." Lila offered a shy hello. Evelyn looked around. Her eyes landed on the cello case near the couch. "What's that?" she asked. Lila's face lit up. "My cello." Evelyn's eyebrows lifted. "A cello. Fancy." "It's for my audition," Lila said, proud. "Audition?" Evelyn tilted her head. "For what?" The conservatory, I said. Evelyn's eyes flickered. Something moved there. No joy. Calculation. Well, she said, clapping her hands once. How exciting. See, you do need me. This family is going places. I should have said no to her staying. I should have trusted the tight feeling in my chest. But I was tired. And a part of me, a small part, still wanted to believe she could be different. So I let her stay for a little while. First it was fine. She cooked sometimes. She made comments about how I folded towels wrong, how my furniture was cheap, how my hair looked tired, but I could handle comments. I had been handling them my whole life. Then she started watching Lila practice. At first she sat quietly, arms crossed. Then she started making little noises. That note was sharp. Your posture is strange. Lila tried to ignore her. One evening, after Lila finished playing a piece she'd been working on for weeks, she looked at her grandmother, hopeful. Was that better? She asked. Evelyn smiled. It was fine. Fine. Like Lila had just shown her a drawing stuck to a fridge, not something she poured her heart into. Lila's shoulders dropped a little, but she nodded. Okay. I'll keep working. After Lila went to bed, I confronted my mother in the kitchen. Why do you talk to her like that? I asked quietly. Evelyn sipped tea. Like what? Like she's not good enough. Evelyn set her cup down. Oh, don't be dramatic. I'm motivating her. If she wants to compete with real talent, she needs to toughen up. She's 12, I said, voice tight. She needs support. Evelyn leaned forward, eyes sharp. And you need to stop raising a child who thinks the world owes her applause. I stared at her, my hands trembling around a dish towel. She smiled like she'd won something. That was the first crack. Then came the money talk. Started innocent. You should let me handle your budget, she said one morning, peering at my bills. You're clearly struggling. I'm managing, I replied. She laughed. Managing. Is that what you call it when you're one surprise bill away from panic? It was true. And she knew it. I can help, she said, voice soft now. I have experience. I know how to make money grow. I should have remembered that her experience had once grown into debt so big she'd lost her house. But I didn't want to think about it. Because on the days when the fridge looked too empty, help sounded like a warm blanket. So I let her help in small ways. Then she pushed. You should take out a small loan, she said. Invest in something. Your daughter's future needs money. You can't keep living like this. I'm not taking out a loan, I said. She rolled her eyes. Fine. Keep drowning quietly. That's your style. I started keeping my wallet closer. I started locking important papers in a drawer. And I started noticing something else. Evelyn would stare at the cello when she thought no one was watching. Like it wasn't an instrument. Like it was a safe. One day, I came home early and found her in the living room with the cello case open. Lila wasn't home yet. My mother's hand was on the cello's neck. What are you doing? Snap. Evelyn jumped back like she'd been burned. Oh, I was just looking. It's a beautiful instrument. It's not yours to touch, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Evelyn's face changed. The sweetness vanished. Don't be ridiculous. I'm family. Family still asks, I said. She shut the case with a sharp click. Fine. If you're going to be paranoid, be paranoid. But her eyes stayed on the case like a hungry person looking at food. That night, I moved the cello into Lila's room. And I told Lila, keep it safe, okay? Lila frowned. Why? Just because it matters, I said, brushing her hair back. Lila nodded. I always keep it safe. She did. Until the day it disappeared. It happened on a Thursday. The kind of day that felt normal. Lila had her biggest practice session planned because her audition was in 2 weeks. She came home, dropped her backpack, and ran to her room. Then the scream came. Not a playful scream. Not a startled boo scream. A broken scream. I ran down the hallway so fast I slammed my shoulder into the doorframe. Lila stood in her room, eyes wide, mouth open, face drained of color. The corner where the cello case always leaned was empty. Her music stand was knocked slightly sideways, like something had been pulled out fast. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no. What's wrong?" I asked, already knowing. "My cello," she gasped. "It's gone." My heart dropped so hard it felt like my body forgot it had bones. I turned and marched into the living room. Evelyn sat on the couch watching TV like the world was normal. "Where is it?" I demanded. She didn't look away from the screen. "Where is what?" "Lila's cello," I said, voice shaking. "Where is it?" Evelyn sighed, slow and annoyed, like I was interrupting her show. "Oh, that old thing. I moved it." "You moved it where?" "Yes." Evelyn finally turned, lips pursed. "Somewhere safe." "Tell me," I said, stepping closer. She stared at me for a long second. Then she smiled a little. And that smile made my skin crawl. "You're acting crazy," she said calmly. "It's just a cello." "It's not just a cello," I said through clenched teeth. "It's her audition. It's her dream." "Where is it?" Evelyn stood slowly, smoothing her cardigan. "You know what your problem is. You worship that child. You give her everything. You think she's special." "She is special," I snapped. Evelyn's eyes hardened. "No. She's a child playing an expensive toy while you struggle to pay rent." My hands curled into fists. "Where is it, Mom?" Evelyn took a breath. Then, like she was doing me a favor, she said, "I sold it." Time froze. The TV kept talking, but the words were far away, like voices underwater. "You what?" I whispered. "I sold it," Evelyn repeated, voice even. "It was worth far more than you think. I had it appraised." "You're welcome." Lila stumbled into the living room behind me, tears streaming down her face. "You sold it," she choked out. Evelyn looked at her like she was looking at a stranger. "Yes." "Why?" Lila cried. "That was mine." Evelyn's mouth tightened. "Nothing in this house is truly yours. Your mother pays for everything. And your mother is drowning. I did what you wouldn't." I turned to my mother, my voice barely working. "How much?" Evelyn lifted her chin. 50,000. The number punched me in the chest. $50,000, Lila repeated like it was a monster's name. Lila's knees buckled and she grabbed the back of the couch to stay standing. I stared at my mother, seeing her for the first time in years with clear eyes. "You stole from my child," I said softly. Evelyn scoffed. "I did not steal. I sold an asset. I turned wood into opportunity." "That cello wasn't an asset," I said, stepping closer. "It was her voice." Evelyn's eyes flashed. "Then she can find a new voice." Lila sobbed, pressing her hands to her face. Something inside me snapped so cleanly I almost felt relief. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I spoke with a calm that scared even me. "Where is the money?" I asked. Evelyn's lips curved. "Safe." "Give it to me," I said. Evelyn laughed once. "Oh honey. Well, you wouldn't know what to do with it." "You stole it," I said, voice sharpening. "Give it back." Evelyn leaned in close. "You want the truth." "I needed it. Had debts. Real ones. Not your little bills. And you were never going to handle them for me. So I handled them myself." I felt my vision blur with rage. "You used my daughter to pay your debts," I said. Evelyn shrugged. "She'll survive." That night Lila didn't eat. She sat on her bed holding her rosin like it was a lifeline, staring at the empty space where the cello used to be. "I can't audition," she whispered. "Without my cello I can't." I sat beside her, heart aching. "We'll find it," I said, though I had no idea how. Lila shook her head, tears falling onto her hands. "It wasn't just a thing, Mom. When I played, it was like Dad could hear me. That shattered me. Because it wasn't only her dream my mother stole. It was our healing." I walked into the kitchen, where Evelyn was counting something at the table. I saw a stack of papers. Receipts. Deposit slip. My mother looked up, annoyed. What? I stared at the deposit slip. And I saw it. A bank deposit for $50,000. And next to it, a name. Not mine. Not my mother's. Business name. Alder and Ash Fine Instruments. I didn't know what it was yet. But I knew one thing. My mother had made a mistake. She had left a trail. And I was going to follow it. The next day, I did something I'd never done in my life. Called the police. They asked questions in calm voices, like they were reading from a book. Was it gifted to your daughter? Yes. Do you have proof of purchase? Yes. Do you know who took it? Yes. My mother. Do you know where it is now? No. They told me something that made my stomach twist. If Evelyn sold it through a proper instrument dealer, it might already be out of state. Or out of the country. And if the buyer claimed they bought it legally, getting it back would be a fight. When I hung up, my hands shook. Evelyn walked into the room like she didn't have a care in the world. You called the police, she said, not a question. Yes, I replied. Evelyn's laugh was low. You wouldn't. I did, I said. Because you stole from a child. Evelyn's face turned hard. Careful. You send your own mother to jail, and you'll regret it. I stared at her. Regret it? Like you regret selling her dream. Evelyn stepped closer, voice cold. You think you're the hero. But you're weak. You always have been. And weak people don't win. Then she smiled again. That winning smile. And in that moment I understood something. Evelyn didn't just want money. She wanted me to feel powerless. She wanted Lila to feel small. 'Cause if we were small, she could be big. I walked past her without another word. And I went to work. First, I drove to the music shop where I bought the cello. The owner recognized me immediately. Hey, he said kindly. How's your daughter doing? My throat tightened. The cello, it was stolen. His face fell. Oh no. My mother sold it, I said, forcing the words out. He let out a slow breath. Do you know where? I handed him the deposit slip copy I'd taken when my mother wasn't looking. This name. Alder and Ash Fine Instruments. His eyes widened a little. That's a high-end dealer. They handle rare instruments. If they paid $50,000, that cello is worth more than you think. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means, he said gently, someone wanted it. Badly. I drove straight to Alder and Ash. It wasn't a shop. It was a gallery. Glass walls. Quiet floors. Soft lighting. The kind of place where even your footsteps sounded expensive. A receptionist looked at me with polite boredom. Can I help you? I'm here about a cello, I said. She smiled like she'd heard that 1,000 times. We have many. Took a breath. My mother sold a cello to you yesterday. It was stolen. I need it back. Her smile didn't move. Do you have documentation? Yes, I said quickly, pulling out my purchase receipt, photos of Lila with the cello, and the police report number. The receptionist's eyes flickered. One moment. She disappeared. A man came out, older, gray hair, calm face. He wore a suit like it was part of his skin. I'm Mr. Hart, he said. This way. He led me into an office with a polished desk and framed photos of instruments like art. He sat and folded his hands. You say your mother sold us a cello? Yes, I said. It belongs to my daughter. Mr. Hart's eyes were careful. And you're claiming it was stolen? Yes, I said again, voice shaking. Because it was. He looked at my photos. He looked at the receipt. He looked at the police report number. Then he sighed. I'm sorry, he said. We acted in good faith. Your mother provided documents. A signed statement of ownership. My blood went cold. She forged papers. It appears so, he said. Then give it back, I said, leaning forward. Please. My daughter has an audition. Mr. Hart hesitated. We cannot simply hand it over without legal process. But there may be another issue. What issue? Yes. He slid a file toward me. Inside were photos of the cello, close-ups, marks, a small stamp inside the body. My stomach twisted as I read the name on the paperwork. The cello wasn't just any student instrument. It had a history. It had once belonged to a well-known musician decades ago. It had been reported missing years back. Not stolen from us, stolen from someone else. My hands started to shake. What are you saying? I'm saying, Mr. Hart said slowly, this instrument is likely connected to a much older case. That means multiple parties could claim ownership. My brain spun. But I bought it legally. From a shop. I believe you, he said. But in the world of rare instruments, the past always comes back. I stumbled out of alder and ash feeling like the floor was moving. Lila's audition was in 2 weeks. Our cello was gone. And now it might be tied to something bigger than us. I went home to find Evelyn sitting at the table, filing her nails. She didn't look up. Well, I stared at her. You forged ownership papers. Evelyn's eyes lifted, calm. I did what I had to. That cello might be connected to an older theft, I said. Evelyn paused for a split second. Just a blink. And in that blink I saw fear. Then it vanished. That's not my problem, she said. I leaned over the table, voice low. Yes, it is. Because now it's a legal problem. And you're at the center of it. Evelyn smiled thinly. You don't have the spine to do anything. I straightened. I used to think that, I said softly. But you stole from my child. Evelyn shrugged. And now, I said, I don't care who you are. I will burn every bridge to protect her. Something changed in Evelyn's eyes. Not guilt. Not regret. Anger. Because I had just taken away something she needed. Me fear. That night, while Evelyn slept, I sat at the kitchen table and made a plan. Not a messy plan. Not an emotional plan. A real plan. First, I called Lila's teacher. I told her everything. There was a long silence. Then the teacher said, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do, I admitted. She can't audition without a cello. Actually, the teacher said carefully, there might be a loaner instrument from the school. Not as good, but it could work. Can we? I asked, hope flickering. Yes, she said. But your daughter needs confidence. The audition panel can feel fear. When I hung up, I went into Lila's room. She lay on her bed staring at the ceiling. I sat beside her. We'll get you a loaner cello, I said. Lila turned her face away. It won't be mine. I know, I said softly. She swallowed hard. Grandma didn't even look sorry. I brushed tears from her cheek. Because some people don't feel sorry when they hurt others. They feel powerful. Lila's voice was small. Will we ever get it back? I looked at her. And I told her the truth, but not the hopeless kind. I don't know, I said. But I know this. Your music is still inside you. No one can sell that. Lila's eyes flickered like a candle fighting wind. The next day I visited my bank. Not to beg. To understand. I asked a friend who worked there, Nina, if she could tell me anything about the deposit Evelyn made. She frowned. I can't give you private account info. I know, I said. But, if you were me, what would you do? Nina looked at my tired face. She looked at my hands shaking. She lowered her voice. If the money went into a new account, there's a chance she's moving it fast. People who do that are usually hiding something. If you file a police report, they can subpoena records. Then that's what I'll do, I said. Nina squeezed my hand. I'm sorry, Maya. I walked out into the cold air and felt something strange. Not fear. Focus. Because now I could see Evelyn clearly. She wasn't just selfish. She was desperate. And desperate people slip. The next week became a blur. Police interviews. Paperwork. Bills. Lila practiced on the loaner cello. It was darker in tone, harder to play. She fought it every day like it was a stubborn animal. Some days she slammed her bow down and cried. I sound awful, she sobbed. You sound like you're surviving, I told her, holding her shoulders. And survival is stronger than perfection. Evelyn watched all of it like a queen watching peasants struggle. She started going out more, dressing up, coming home late. Once, I saw her slip a new pair of shoes out of a bag. Expensive. Jamie. You're spending the money, I said, voice tight. Evelyn smiled. It's mine. It's stolen, I said. She lifted one shoulder. Life is stolen. Time is stolen. Everything ends up taken. At least I'm taking back. From a child. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Because I was learning something Evelyn never expected. Silence can be a weapon too. One afternoon I got a call from Mr. Hart at Alder and Ash. Ms. Reyes, he said, voice careful. I need you to come in. My stomach tightened. Why? We received a request, he said. The cello you reported. It's scheduled to be displayed at a private charity gala in 3 days. It may be auctioned. My knees went weak. Auctioned. But I told you it's stolen. Yes, he said. Which is why I'm calling you. There are people involved now. And there's another detail. What detail? Asked. Mr. Hart paused. The buyer attending the gala is someone with influence. And he believes the cello carries something inside it. My breath caught. Inside it. Some rare instruments were used to hide things during past wars, he said. Letters, jewels, documents. I don't know if it's true. But rumors make people reckless. I swallowed, heart pounding. So they're auctioning it because they think it holds a secret. Possibly, Mr. Hart said. And your mother's paperwork. It raised alarms. She may have tried to sell it quickly to avoid questions. I pictured Evelyn's calm smile. Her late nights. Her new shoes. Understood. She wasn't just greedy. She was running. Where is the gala? Asked. Mr. Hart gave me the address. It was the same place I stood in the beginning of this story. The glittering ballroom. The stage. The spotlight. When I hung up, I stared at the wall. 3 days. If that cello got sold again, it could vanish forever. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I asked for help from someone Evelyn never respected. My husband's old friend, Daniel. Daniel worked in legal investigation. Not a movie detective. Not a dramatic spy. The quiet kind of professional who listened more than he spoke. When I explained everything, Daniel's jaw tightened. Your mother sold stolen property, he said. And if she forged documents, that's another crime. I don't care about revenge, I said, voice shaking. I care about my daughter. Daniel nodded. We can do both. He asked for every detail, every paper, every name. Then he said, that gala, it's going to be your moment. My moment. I repeated, confused. Daniel's eyes were steady. You want your daughter's cello back. You also want proof that your mother did it. Not just your word against hers. I swallowed. How? Daniel leaned forward. We let her talk. The idea sounded strange. She won't confess. She will if she thinks she's safe, Daniel said. People like her always talk when they believe they're in control. I thought of Evelyn's smile, of her proud posture, of the way she loved to feel smarter than everyone else. Daniel continued. I have a contact who will be at that gala. A man who can get close to her. If your mother is involved in shady sales, she'll brag. She'll slip. She'll reveal details that only the thief would know. And then? Asked. Daniel's voice hardened. Then we pull the rug out from under her. The day of the gala came too fast. Lila stayed home, refusing to go. I can't watch them sell it, she whispered, eyes hollow. You don't have to, I told her. But I need you to believe something. What? She asked. I took her hands. Your dream isn't weak. It survived your father's death. It survived poverty. It survived a loner cello. It can survive your grandmother. Tears filled her eyes. I hate her. I didn't tell her she shouldn't. I didn't tell her to forgive. I only said, you're allowed to feel that. But don't let hate steal your music too. Lila nodded, shaking. Then she whispered, "Bring it back, Mom." "I will," I promised. At the gala, I wore the only nice dress I owned. It didn't sparkle. It didn't belong there. But I wasn't there to blend in. I was there to fight. Daniel met me outside. He looked calm. Too calm for how my heart was hammering. "Remember," he said quietly, "you don't charge in until you have what you need." "What I need is my daughter's cello," I hissed. "And you will," he said. "But you also need proof. Otherwise your mother walks away and does it again." My nails dug into my palms. We entered. The room was exactly as I described. Bright, expensive, cold. And there she was. Evelyn, seated in the front row like royalty. Pearl earrings. Perfect smile. A glass of champagne in her hand. Like she had done nothing wrong. I felt heat rise in my chest. Then I saw the man behind her. Gray suit. Calm face. He leaned in, speaking to her like an old friend. Evelyn's smile widened. She was enjoying herself. Daniel murmured, "That's him. His name is Marcus. He'll do the talking." Marcus's hand moved. He pulled out a small recorder and pressed a button. Hidden by his palm. The red light blinked. Evelyn didn't notice. Because Evelyn never noticed traps. She only noticed applause. The auctioneer stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "thank you for your generosity tonight. We begin with a very special piece." The cello appeared under the spotlight. My throat closed. For a second I could almost hear Lila playing again. Then the auctioneer announced the starting bid. My heart pounded so loud it felt like everyone could hear it. Security stood near the aisle. Daniel held my arm gently, a reminder to wait. Marcus leaned close to Evelyn. I couldn't hear his words, but I saw Evelyn's face shift. She laughed softly. She lifted her hand in a graceful little wave like she was dismissing a silly question. Then she leaned in toward him, lips moving. Marcus nodded slowly like he was impressed. Evelyn's smile sharpened. She was bragging. I could see it in the way her chin lifted. In the way her eyes shone. Like she was telling a story where she was the clever hero. The auctioneer called, 40,000. "Do I hear 45? A hand lifted in the crowd. My stomach flipped. Marcus suddenly stood. He raised a hand, calm and confident. "I have a question," Marcus said in a clear voice. The auctioneer paused, surprised. "Yes, sir." Marcus smiled politely. "Has the ownership been fully verified? This instrument has a history." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Evelyn stiffened. The auctioneer cleared his throat. "We have documentation." Marcus nodded. "And the consignor? The one who brought it in?" The auctioneer hesitated. Marcus turned slightly, eyes landing on Evelyn. Evelyn's smile froze. Marcus's voice stayed polite, but it carried a blade. "Because I spoke with the woman who consigned it. She said it belonged to her granddaughter. That she sold it to pay debts. And that she forged papers to do it." The room went silent, like someone had pulled the plug on all sound. Evelyn's face drained of color so fast it was almost shocking. Then she laughed too loudly. "That's ridiculous," she snapped, standing. "Who are you?" Marcus held up the recorder. The tiny red light blinked. "I'm someone who doesn't like liars," he said. "And I don't like thieves." Evelyn's mouth opened, then closed. Her eyes darted around, searching for control. And that's when I stepped into the aisle. I walked forward slowly, every heel click loud in the quiet room. My voice came out steady. "Hello, Mom." Evelyn stared at me like I'd become a ghost. "You," she whispered. I kept walking until I stood near the front. Security looked uncertain. The crowd stared like this was part of the entertainment. The auctioneer looked panicked. Evelyn lifted her chin, trying to recover her mask. "This is a private event," she said sharply. "You're making a scene." "You made the scene," I said. "When you stole from my daughter." Evelyn's eyes flashed. "I did no such thing." Marcus held up the recorder again. Do you want me to play it? Evelyn's lips trembled. Just a little. That tiny tremble was the first time I'd ever seen her lose her grip. Daniel stepped beside me, calm as stone. He spoke to the auctioneer. There's an open police report. This item is disputed. If you proceed with this sale, you're risking serious legal consequences. The auctioneer swallowed hard. I wasn't aware. Evelyn snapped. Yes, you were. You knew the documents were fine. Marcus looked at her. You told me you signed your granddaughter's name. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Evelyn's eyes widened, realizing too late what she had said to the wrong person. I leaned forward slightly, my voice quiet but sharp enough to cut. You thought you were smart. You thought you could hurt a child and walk away smiling. Evelyn's face twisted, anger fighting fear. She's not a child in the real world. The real world takes. And the real world gives back, I said. At that moment, 2 uniformed officers entered the room. They moved calmly but with purpose. Someone in the crowd whispered, "Oh my God!" Evelyn's eyes darted. Her hands gripped her purse like it could save her. The officers approached. One spoke. Evelyn Carter. Evelyn straightened, voice trembling. Yes. And this is a misunderstanding. The officer's tone was firm. Ma'am, you are being questioned in connection with a theft and fraudulent sale. Evelyn's mask shattered. She turned to me, eyes blazing. You did this. I didn't flinch. You did this. Her voice rose shrill. After everything I've done for you. You didn't do things for me, I said, and my voice surprised even me with how calm it was. You did things to me. Silence again. The officer held out a hand. Ma'am, please come with us. Evelyn tried one last time to grab control. She turned to the crowd, forcing a laugh. This is absurd. I'm a respected woman. Marcus spoke softly like the final nail. Respected by who? People who don't know you. Evelyn's eyes snapped to him. You set me up. Marcus's voice stayed steady. You set yourself up the moment you decided a child's dream was worth less than your debts. The officers guided Evelyn away. She didn't go quietly. She hissed at me as she passed. You'll regret this. I watched her leave. And for the first time in my life I realized something. Her threats only worked when I believed them. Now they were just noise. The auctioneer cleared his throat, voice shaking. Ladies and gentlemen, due to unforeseen circumstances, this lot is withdrawn. The crowd buzzed, disappointed, excited, hungry for gossip. But I wasn't listening to them. My eyes were on the cello. Daniel approached the stage with paperwork from the officers. Mr. Hart had arrived too, sweating and pale, ready to fix what he could. After a tense few minutes of signatures and confirmations, the cello case was carried down. And then it was in my hands. The weight of it nearly made me cry. Not because it was heavy, 'cause it was home. I ran out of the ballroom like the building was on fire. In the car, the case sat in the back seat like a precious passenger. My hands shook on the steering wheel the whole drive. When I got home, I didn't even knock on Lila's door. Opened it. She sat on her bed, staring at nothing. She looked up, eyes dull. Then she saw the cello case. At first she didn't move. Like her brain didn't trust what her eyes were seeing. Mom, she whispered. I set the case gently on the floor and nodded. Lila slid off the bed slowly. Her hands hovered over the case like she was afraid it might vanish. Then she unlatched it. The lid opened. The cello lay inside, glowing softly in the room's light. Lila let out a sound that wasn't a cry and wasn't a laugh. She fell to her knees and wrapped her arms around it. It's here, she whispered. It's really here. I knelt beside her, tears finally spilling. It's yours, I said. It always was. Lila pressed her forehead against the cello's side. I thought it was gone forever. I did too, I admitted. She looked up at me, eyes wet but alive again. What happened to Grandma? I took a slow breath. She got caught, I said. And she has to face what she did. Lila swallowed. Will she come back? Not here, I said firmly. Not to this home. Not to you. Lila's shoulders relaxed, like she had been holding her breath for weeks. Then she stood, wiped her face, and lifted the cello carefully. She sat on the chair, posture straight, chin settling into that familiar curve. She drew the bow across the strings. One long note filled the room. It wasn't perfect. It didn't need to be. It was a voice returning. It was a heart saying, I'm still here. A few days later, Lila walked into her audition with her cello in her hand and fire in her eyes. She played like someone who had fought to be heard. And when she finished, the room was quiet for a second. Then one of the judges leaned forward and said softly, "Thank you." Lila walked out breathing hard. She looked at me and whispered, "No matter what happens." I played. I hugged her tight. "That's the victory," I said. Weeks later we got the letter. She was accepted. With support. With mentorship. With a path forward. Evelyn tried to call from different numbers. I didn't answer. She tried to send messages that swung between guilt and rage. I didn't respond. Because here is the truth nobody likes to say out loud. Sometimes the biggest lesson isn't forgiveness. Sometimes the biggest lesson is boundaries. You can love someone and still refuse to let them hurt you. You can share blood and still choose peace. Karma doesn't always come like lightning. Sometimes karma comes like a door closing. A number blocked. A life that moves forward without the person who kept trying to pull it back. And if you're watching this story right now feeling that tightness in your chest, maybe because you've been betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you, I want you to remember this. Greed always thinks it's winning. Cruelty always thinks it's untouchable. But truth has a way of crawling into the light. And when it does, the people who built their power on hurting others don't know what to do when the fear leaves your eyes. So if you believe in karma, if you believe that what people do in the dark eventually finds them, subscribe. Because these stories aren't just entertainment. They're reminders that even when someone steals what you love, they can't steal who you become when you fight to get it back.